Alexis Grigoropoulos was only 15 years old when he was shot and killed by 2 police officers in 2008. The killing of the student happened after a group of teenagers got involved in an argument with law enforcement in Athens' Exarcheia district. Despite the fact officers were found guilty of murder, with one being sentenced to life in prison, Grigoropoulos' death kept triggering large protests throughout Greece, as well as demonstrations held in solidarity around the world. 10 years have passed from the fatal incident, but the death of Grigoropoulos still inflames demonstrations in Greece. S.Mavroudeas, professor of political economy at the University of Macedonia in Thessaloniki, explained why Greek citizens are determined to celebrate the memory of Alexis Grigoropoulos.
Because of political reasons, but political will cannot stand on its own. I mean, forces in the left are keen to preserve this anniversary, but you can't preserve an anniversary simply on political will. So there are underlying problems in the Greek society that keep the memory of the incident alive.
Professor Mavroudeas then pointed out why annual marches marking the death of the teenager have turned violent.
The violence comes from a minority, the Black Bloc. The Black Bloc considers the Grigoropoulos case as its own property, quite ironically given that they are mainly anarchists and they are supposed to have a problem with property. So they are keen for their own purposes to endeavor into violent acts. But apart from them, the memory of the incident is very alive in the youth, particularly in the student youth, in the secondary education.
Some argue the unrest triggered by Grigoropoulos' death continued due to the frustration among people over the financial crisis, austerity, and high youth unemployment. Professor Mavroudeas confirmed that this is indeed the essence of the issue, but said there are also other deeper causes that played a role in the riots.
Students, which formed the main body of the protesters at that period, had also been in turmoil since 2006 because the government has tried at that period to introduce a series of laws pursuing the covert privatization of Greece's education system. The second reason was that Greece police has a very bad record of arbitrariness and brutality. And this is sanctioned officially by all political leaderships and, of course, by the hierarchy of the police force. There is another problem with the Greek police. It contains significant extreme right-wing sections within it. And finally, there is frustration, particularly within the youth, regarding the established political system and the parties.
Does Greek police have a problem with demonstrators and especially with rioting youth?
The youth is more severely hit by the crisis, particularly nowadays. So disorder comes from parts of the youth, social disorder, and of course this brings the wrath of the police, which is pretty undisciplined. The police contains extreme right-wing sections. It is under pressure from successive governments to subdue unrest and segments of the population that revolt. So it is typical in such cases that the police exhibits brutality and arbitrariness.
Professor Mavroudeas doesn't believe the Greek government can do anything to quell the unrest.
They cannot do anything, and probably they are not willing to do anything regarding the fundamental causes of such eruptions. There is no exit from the crisis, despite the myths about a success story now preached by Syriza. The youth is in the worst condition from all social strata, and Syriza and the New Democracy, which are the main contenders for government, are both lackeys of the European Union and pursuing the same austerity policies with only minor differences. So I don't see that any Greek government at this particular period of time and coming from these parties can do anything serious to alleviate these problems.
Scores of young hooded protesters faced off with riot police in Athens on Thursday as gatherings got underway to remember the 10th anniversary of Alexis Grigoropoulos' death. As soon as the commemorative march began, protesters started smashing bus shelters and throwing Molotov cocktails and rocks. Police deployed tear gas to disperse the crowd, and 10 people were arrested. Lauri Timmers, Radio Sputnik.